All right, so here we go, a tier list of 35mm cameras that is equal parts helpful, harmful, and probably guaranteed to make more than a handful of you upset in the comments. If you've ever spent hours scouring eBay or looking up videos on YouTube instead of actually shooting, well then this video is certainly for you. I'm going to be ranking some of my favorite and the most popular 35mm film cameras from S to D tier, where S is obviously top of the line and the best, and D is the shelf where cameras go to gather dust and become shelf decor. This isn't about lab tests or MTF charts or pixel peeping grain structure. This is about the vibe, the feel, and how much joy or pain these cameras bring in the shooting experience. We'll be looking at how fun they are to use, how good the general lens ecosystem is, how painful they are to carry around, how likely they are to give you main character energy on the street, their price point, and the overall ergonomics. Yes, some of these cameras are legendary. Yes, some of them are very overrated. And yes, some of them feel like they've been designed by someone who has never taken a photo. Many of my photos, which you're seeing on screen now, were taken on these cameras, but for the sake of interest of the video and showcasing other photographers and the ceiling of these cameras, I sourced some really amazing, inspiring photos for the list. Otherwise, before we jump into it, obviously we could be spending hours and hours listing tons of different cameras, so if you're wondering why a certain camera didn't make the list, that's probably why. I don't think any of us care to be here for a Northern Line style fruit tier list that lasts for 4 hours and goes on hundreds of tangents. Before we get into it, something I don't say enough, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content, as it does help me out a ton, and you'll be in the know with more film photography news and videos coming soon. Okay, and the last thing before we get into it, I swear there is 2 other videos I made ranking colored film stock in the same tier list style, as well as a medium format camera one as well, so definitely check those out. So buckle up, grab something to drink, and let's dive into the magical world of 35mm chaos, one opinionated ranking at a time.
First up, the Canon AE-1. Ah yes, the Canon AE-1. The gateway drug of film cameras. The camera responsible for more film photography addictions than probably any other camera. If you've searched best beginner film camera, this thing is pretty much guaranteed to show up. It's also, in my opinion, the most overhyped film camera and will be suggested by many people who know little to nothing about film cameras. The AE-1 is beloved, honestly to a fault. It's often the first real camera people shoot with, and for a while it was for good reason. In recent times, because of the popularity and lack of cameras being made, the price has gotten a bit out of control. Yes, it is reliable, approachable, and looks like the cool uncle of your dad's old film cameras. And yes, it was one of the first SLRs to feature shutter priority auto exposure, which in the late 70s basically made it the iPhone of cameras. But there's tons of cameras out there that are super similar but go for much less. As for the lenses, it's an FD mount, and the selection is, well, chef's kiss. Tons of excellent Canon glass, from the ever popular 50mm f1.4 to weird telephotos and fast wides. FD lenses were slept on for many years, but people are finally waking up. They're affordable, sharp, and plentiful. What more can you ask for from a lens? The AE-1 comes in at around 1.3 pounds, light enough to carry all day, but still heavy enough to feel like you're using a real camera and not a plastic toy. And if it came down to it, could help you survive a zombie apocalypse as a potential impromptu weapon. As for the price, you can usually find one with a 50mm lens for $150 to $250, depending on the condition. Not cheap, but definitely more reasonable than anything with a red dot or titanium top plate or body. However, as we'll get to later in this video, there's just lots of other cameras that are a lot cheaper that can rival the AE-1. That being said, I do see why these gained all the popularity initially. They're easy to shoot, they have manual focus, a bright viewfinder, simple metering, and that classic shutter sound that's basically ASMR for film shooters at this point. Let's hear it again. Oh. The battery only powers the meter, so even if it dies, you've still got a mechanical camera in your hands. Unless you're using the AE-1 program, then yeah, the battery is more important. Okay, so before rating the AE-1, one thing I want to bring up is actually a known issue with the vast majority of these cameras, where they either under or overexposed by a stop, which if you know anything about film cameras, you want to side on the air of caution when it comes to the shadows, and there's much more wiggle room in the highlights. Thus, the cameras that overexpose by one stop, in a general sense, honestly give better photos than a lot of the normal cameras where people are metering them incorrectly, or on the flip side where every single shot is underexposed by one full stop. Because of this, there seems to be quite a wide ranging opinions of this camera. I kind of hypothesize that the people who have the cameras that overexpose by one stop are generally getting a more friendly camera that's just going to render images better, like I said, in a general sense, whereas if you're getting a camera that's underexposing everything, you're probably going to think the camera is shit. So what's the verdict? To be honest, I think because of the price, I would personally slot it in as a solid overall B tier camera, but many would argue that it's possibly an S tier, especially for beginners. So I think it's probably most appropriately into the A tier. It's charming, dependable, and just cool enough without trying too hard. It's not the most advanced, not the most compact, but you'll love it anyways. Honestly, it's like a golden retriever in camera form, so who can't love that? Next up, the Canon A1. This is the flagship of the A series lineup and the one that looked at the AE1 in the mirror and said, you can do shutter priority? That's cute. This camera didn't just raise the bar in the late 70s, it was the bar. Full program mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, full manual. It was like the Swiss Army knife of SLRs. It was like prime Shawn Michaels setting the bar for all other superstars to come, making an ordinary move like the super kick into what we know and love as the ever-gracious sweet chin music. Sorry, started stimming about the wrong niche subculture. Among Canon FD shooters, the A1 is often considered the one to beat. It's more advanced than the AE1, has better build quality, more metering options, and just feels like Canon said, let's make a camera for someone who knows exactly what they're doing, or at least wants to look like it. It's a total sleeper these days, overshadowed by the AE1 hype, but real ones know this thing slaps. It has the same excellent FD mount as the AE1, meaning a treasure trove of affordable, sharp glass with beautiful rendering and smooth manual focus action. The 50mm f1.2 lens is incredible, but truthfully, you can go as wide or telly as your budget allows. Ultimately, you're not limited creatively at all. The Canon FD glass lineup is stacked. The A1 comes in at around 1.4 pounds, slightly beefier than the AE1, but still carryable. It definitely feels professional, yet lightweight. These usually go for around $180 to $300 with the same 50mm lens, depending on the condition. Not as hyped as the AE1, so prices have stayed relatively sane, but it's starting to creep up as people realize how capable it is, especially in comparison to the AE1 for that price. Like I said, this thing gives you pretty much everything. Program mode if you're feeling lazy, manual mode if you want the control, and the shutter sounds like a polite high five. The LED metering display in the viewfinder is a little 80s calculator core, but it's accurate and intuitive once you get used to it. The one thing to watch out for, I would say, is the foam seals. Like most A series Canons, they turn into black sticky nightmares of just tar if they're not serviced, but it is a pretty easy fix, all things considered. So what do I ultimately think? It's a solid A tier camera, maybe a low S tier if you want the feel of a pro camera without shelling out for an F1. It's kind of like the AE1's older sibling who took honors classes, worked out, and still had time to be fun at parties. It just offers more than its lamer younger sibling. If the Canon AE1 is the gateway drug, the A1 is the upgrade that makes you start saying things like, I might get into darkroom printing. It's that good. But in my opinion, it belongs in A tier. Next up, the Nikon F Series. This is the leather jacket of 35mm SLRs. These are the cameras that walked onto the scene, lit a cigarette, and immediately got hired by every photojournalist from here to Vietnam. We'll focus on the heavy hitters, specifically the F2 and F3, with some light jabs and reverent head nods where needed. The F2 took everything from the, at that time, amazing Nikon F and added more to make it just better. Released in 1971, it's widely considered one of the best mechanical SLRs ever made. No electronics, no drama, just vibes and precision. It's manual exposure but has battery controls and modular viewfinders, a dream for photography purists, and it's just downright reliable. It'll still work after the apocalypse as long as the cockroaches don't eat the foam seals, so alluding back to this zombie apocalypse camera, this one would be a good choice too. As for the F3, it was released in 1980 and was designed by Giugiaro, hopefully I said that right, but yes, the car designer. Needless to say, the F3 has style. This was the first electronic Nikon F, and it became the go-to for everyone from Nat Geo photographers to skater kids 30 years later. The main difference between the Nikon F2 and F3 is that the F3 incorporates more electronics, including aperture priority metering and an electronic shutter. The F2 is a mechanical camera, and its shutter and film advance are all mechanical, with the battery only used for the meter. They both only weigh about 1.7 pounds, a little bit more beefy than its Canon counterparts. These are cameras that command respect, not attention necessarily. You don't need pastel straps or Instagram filters to be cool. These are just cool by nature. Whether you're a purist, a collector, a historian, or just someone who appreciates good industrial design and killer optics, the Nikon F Series is what you show up with when you mean business. Plus, you can find either for like $200 to $500 depending on the condition, so yeah. And for that and their timelessness, the Nikon F2 and F3 are both going into S tier. Truly some of my favorite made 35mm SLRs of all time. Up next, the Pentax K Series. The Pentax K Series is like the band that never charted but secretly influenced everyone else's sound. Quiet, minimal, and built like vintage Toyota pickups, they just keep going. The K1000 is most well known and oftentimes is the go-to student camera. This all-manual minimalist launched 1,000 careers and at least 800 Etsy shops. The general consensus amongst pretty much all photographers is that it's universally loved, not because it's flashy or feature-rich, but because it just works. It's simple, reliable, and lets you focus on actually learning photography instead of being bogged down with controls or lack thereof. It uses Pentax K-mount lenses, which gives you access to a huge range of glass, Pentax excellent SMC primes, third-party gems, and even modern manual focus lenses from companies like Vivitar and Rokinon. Loads of choice and many times much cheaper than the Nikon or Canon counterparts. The camera is manual focus, manual exposure, and center-weighted TTL metering, which only activates when you press the shutter halfway, and that's it. That's the simplicity of the K1000, and that's the beauty. As for the size, it's only 1.4 pounds, heavy enough to feel solid, and light enough to not curse it by the third hour of a hike. Also, not that I don't like the other Pentax SLRs, but for me, the price for the K1000 is just the best, and it's the most readily available. But I do say that the KM or KX would be good alternatives as well. Another great selling point of the K1000 is the price. It's $150 to $250 depending on the condition. So they're still relatively affordable, but prices are creeping up thanks to student demand and nostalgia-fueled hype. It's a dream for beginners, but also satisfying for mass-produced who want just a back-to-basics rig. There's no distractions, no automation, just the essentials. Because of its simplicity and lens selection, I think this is comparable to the Canon SLRs, and I think that it fits perfectly into the A tier. Next up, the Olympus OM Series. If the Nikon F is a muscle car and the Pentax K1000 is a Toyota pickup, the Olympus OM cameras are a vintage European roadster. Compact, classy, and way more capable than they look. Designed to shake up the bulky SLR game, the OM Series was Olympus saying, what if pro cameras weren't also small-scale dumbbells? First, let's chat about the OM1, the original game changer, and the silent assassin. The OM1 launched in 1972 and immediately blew minds for being ridiculously small and quiet, especially compared to the brick-like Nikon F2 and Canon F1. If you're looking for a fully mechanical SLR with a whisper-quiet shutter and buttery smooth operation, well, this is it. The OM1 is the camera people wish they started with after trying a bigger, heavier system. It's beloved, revered, and a lightweight legend. As for the lenses, it's an Olympus OM mount, and here's the secret sauce. These Ricoh lenses are compact, sharp, and beautifully made. The 50mm f1.8 is the sleeper king, the 28mm f2.8 is perfect for travel, and there are some seriously underrated portrait lenses in the lineup. As for the highly anticipated weight, it comes in at just under 500 grams or 1.1 pounds. That's lighter than most people's coffee thermoses and certainly smaller than most of the SLRs from the same era. Again, they come in at around $150 to $250 for a good OM1 body, and lenses are still fairly affordable too, for now. Everything about this camera is just lightweight and smooth. The film advance, the mirror slap, the shutter feel, and the viewfinder is enormous. Olympus didn't just make these small, they made it good. Later down the road, Olympus wanted to upgrade the OM1 and add electronics, aperture priority mode, and auto metering. In general, the OM2 is criminally underrated and oftentimes forgotten about. The metering system is spooky accurate even by today's standards. The one knock I will say is that it is battery dependent, unlike the OM1, but still reliable with a clean interface. As the years rolled on, Olympus made more consumer-friendly models with plastic bits, electronic shutters, and in some cases, a lack of full manual control unless you used an add-on, which leads us into the OM10, which was beginner friendly but super limited. As for the OM20 and OM40, I don't know, I just don't see a world where you would want these over the OM1 or OM2, to be honest. Okay, so what's my final verdict here? I'm gonna say that the OM1 and OM2, because they have near mechanical perfection in a small package, they both go into A tier, and the OM10 and OM20, 40, etc., all the other ones like this, honestly, I think are C tier. I think the limitations on them just make it not worth it compared to their superior versions in the OM1 and OM2. Next up, the Olympus Mu/Stylus. The Olympus Mu or Stylus series, which is what we call it here in the US, is a tiny, slick, plastic point and shoot that somehow over the last handful of years has become film royalty. If the OM series was Olympus flexing their design chops for series photographers, the Mu series was them flexing their ability to make it cool. These cameras weren't just tools, they were stylish, compact, and made film photography feel effortless. And today, they're some of the most hyped up point and shoots on the market. Let's start with the original, the Mu1. Pretty much everyone slept on these in the 90s, and now everyone wants one. It's compact, reliable, actually weather resistant, and takes really sharp photos thanks to its 35mm f3.5 lens. It's fully automatic, obviously. It has an active autofocus system, auto flash with an annoying default of being on, which I will say kind of sucks, and weather sealed clamshell design. Because it is a point and shoot, it's super small, like it can actually fit in your pocket small. As for the price, it used to be $30, now expect $150 to $250 depending on the condition and the hype. Now moving over to the Mewtwo, this one is definitely worth the hype. In fact, this is the one the film kids go feral over. It's weather sealed, has a fast lens, it's dead simple to use, and just nails focus and exposure the vast majority of the time. It's the same size as the original Mew, but with a faster, sharper 35mm f2.8 lens. It has improved autofocus, full auto everything, and that iconic clamshell design still. As for the price, welcome to the hype zone. It's $300 to $500 and definitely climbing still. I think this camera is only going to get more expensive as more newbie photographers want the easiest plug and play option, and this slots right into that. Now, before I rate the Mewtwo, let's talk about some of the zoom models, but honestly, just don't. With as much hype as the original two cameras are warranted, the opposite can be said about the zooms. The lenses just suck, and unless you get it for free, it's just not worth it. For me, the zooms are definitely D tier. I truly think they taint the blessed name that is Mew. They're just super plasticky and honestly look like disposable film shots. The original Mew is super good otherwise. It's budget friendly, the lens is sharp, it's pocketable. Realistically, it's everything you want in a film point shoot other than that damn flash. And I think it's a deserved A tier. Otherwise, as for the Mewtwo, honestly, I think it's an S tier. Other than the price and the weird flash quirk, I genuinely think it's pretty much a perfect point and shoot camera. While not as sharp as the Contax T2, I think the price difference honestly makes the cameras comparable. As for the zoom versions, I think these suck, honestly, and are kind of a bait into what people think are the prime lens cameras. So I'm gonna put this in D tier. Next up, the Olympus PEN. Ah yes, the Olympus PEN. The camera that introduced film lasting twice as long, and it fits in your jacket pocket. Introduced in the late 1950s and running through the 1980s, the PEN series was Olympus's answer to the everyman's camera, compact, efficient, stylish, and revolutionary in format. These things were half-frame shooters, meaning they fit 2 images into one 35mm frame. That's right, 72 shots per roll of 36 exposure film. We're only going to discuss the Olympus PEN F series because, in my opinion, the other ones are really not worth talking about, and we're gonna make this already long video even longer. Plus, these are definitely the coolest of the PEN family. Full manual SLRs in half-frame format with interchangeable lenses and beautiful design. People love these for their portability, precision, and that satisfying horizontal frame orientation. They're an F mount with a sweet range of Ricoh lenses from 25mm to 100mm, which is roughly 35 to 150 equivalent in full frame. These are all metal, sleek and tiny, smaller than most rangefinders, and have a super quiet and smooth shutter. They weigh around 600 grams of the lens, a little over a pound, and the bodies run for $250 to $400, with the lenses ranging from $100 to $400 depending on the rarity. So what's the verdict? For me, being the OG half-frame camera and having a sleek, unique design, it falls just short of S tier, but I think comfortably sits in A tier. Next up, the Olympus Trip. This is the point and shoot that won hearts of tourists and street photographers alike. Made from the late 1960s through the early 80s, this little beast just keeps going. The Trip 35 is often called the perfect travel camera because of how simple, compact, and dead reliable it is. Olympus sold over 10 million of these, and for good reason. It makes shooting film feel casual, approachable, and fun. Just load the film, guess the focus distance, and let the selenium-powered meter do its thing. As for the lens, it's a 40mm f2.8 Ricoh. It's tack sharp, beautifully coated, and surprisingly contrasty. It is zone focus only, but the lens performs way better than it has any right to. Now, for the kicker, it only has 2 speeds, 1/40th of a second and 1/200th of a second. That's it. But the selenium meter switches between them automatically and closes the shutter if exposure is impossible. Now, it does shoot between f2.8 to f22, which is automatically selected in A mode, or you can shoot manually. And interestingly enough, it doesn't require batteries. Like I said, it is zone focus, which is fast, but requires a little bit of guesswork or skill. It weighs just over 400 grams, so it's super portable and fits in pretty much any pocket. Now, prices have been climbing, but you can still find good copies for $100 to $200, depending on the condition and whether the meter is still alive. Main condition or service ones are going to be closer to $250 plus, especially if it comes with any of the original leather cases, caps, or whatever. Despite this, it is the street photography dream. It's quiet, discreet, doesn't require batteries, and the 40mm focal length is the perfect natural view. It's also a good beginner-friendly camera. There's no need to learn metering, exposure, or even focus precisely once you understand the distances. Okay, so where do I think this belongs? Well,
The camera is amazing, but with only 2 shutter speeds, it does have quite a bit of limitations. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think that's the most appropriate. If it did have more shutter speeds so you could shoot it more dynamically, then I think it would belong in A tier, but I think it is a B tier camera. Next up, the Minolta SRT Series. This camera series shows up late to the vintage camera party, doesn't say much, but then absolutely bodies the photo competition without even breaking a sweat. This was Minolta's answer to Nikon's F Series and Pentax Spotmatic, and honestly, they're way more capable than they get credit for. In general, these are somewhat of a hidden gem. The SRT series, especially the SRT 101, 201, and 202, are beloved by film shooters who know their history. They're rugged, fully mechanical, and they're featuring one of the earliest full information match needle meters in a bright viewfinder. This was definitely pro tier in the late 60s and still holds up shockingly well. Now, these are often overlooked for sexier names like Canon, Pentax, or Nikon, but anyone who shot one knows that they feel solid, shoot clean, and handle beautifully. The lens mount is a Minolta SRT mount, which has a massive selection of glass, and most of them are still relatively affordable. It is a fully mechanical cloth. It is a fully mechanical cloth focal plane shutter, which has a max speed of 1/1000th, but does not need batteries for operation, which is pretty nice, just for the meter. Now, these things were built heavy metal, tank-like. You could defend yourself in a dark alley with one and still shoot your roll after. But because of that, they come in a bit heavier at 750 to 800 grams, depending on the model and lens. Now, between the 101, 201, and 202, honestly, they aren't that different in my opinion. They can all be found with a nice 50mm lens for between, $150 to $250. A good beginner-friendly camera, but also satisfies more experienced shooters. Now, before I do the verdict on SRTs, I do think it's worth mentioning the X700 as well. Lots of good control with both aperture priority, but also good manual control, and uses the same lenses in a smaller, lightweight body compared to the SRTs. So check those out too for sure. Otherwise, the Minolta SRT series is like that 70s muscle car your dad drove. It might not have Bluetooth or cup holders, but it does feel right. It's solid, loud in a good way, and full of character. If you want a camera that teaches you how to shoot without getting in your way and doesn't cost you rent, the SRT series is a hard yes, and based on that, I think it falls somewhere between A and B, especially when you factor in the price to performance ratio, but compared to some of the other A tier cameras, I do think it is closer to B, so it falls into B tier. Next up, the Olympus XA and XA2. Now, let's take a break from the chunky SLR crowd and talk about 2 compact legends that slipped into your shirt pocket like a secret weapon. The XA and its simpler sibling, the XA2. These things are so small, they basically hide in plain sight, like a Leica that got hit with a shrink ray. But don't let the size fool you, these are not toy cameras. In fact, the XA is a precision rangefinder wrapped in a clamshell disguise, and the XA2 is a point and shoot that punches way above its weight class. First, let's chat about the original, the XA. A true rangefinder and a body barely bigger than a deck of cards. Aperture priority auto exposure, a razor sharp 35mm f2.8 Ricoh lens, and a slick little thumb wheel for setting your f-stop. It's like a miniature Leica M6 for people who have to pay rent. The rangefinder patch is, let's be honest, fine, it works. And if you're someone who gets sweaty over manual focus and actually wants to think about depth of field in a pocket camera, well, this one is for you. Now the XA2, they said, what if it's the XA, but just mostly vibes? It has zone focus, automatic exposure, fixed aperture f3.5 lens, all designed so you could hand it to your friend and not scream when they shoot an entire roll at infinity focus in the basement. But guess what? The lens is still ridiculously good. The results, way sharper than they have any right to be, and that makes it the ultimate street photography stealth rig. It's quiet, fast, and looks like you stole it from your aunt in 1987. Well, maybe because you did. These cameras are called classics for a reason though, and that clamshell design, iconic. There's no lens cap to close or lose, you just slide it open and go. It's the original everyday carry long before that became a hashtag. Like I said before, they both rock that Zuiko 35mm lens with surprisingly sharp rendering in classic Olympus colors, but the XA gives you the f2.8, a bit more glass, and full aperture control. In short, the XA is the thinker's compact, and the XA2 is the shooter's compact. The XA comes in between $100 and $200 depending on the condition, where the XA2 is around $80 to $140, but it's definitely climbing as people realize that they're pretty good. Now, I haven't had great results with the XA2 specifically, but for the price and how good they both are, but specifically the XA, I think it has to go into the A tier. I wanted to put it into B tier, but like I said, for only about $100 to $200, these are pretty beast at the end of the day. Next up, the Contax T2. You know that person who shows up and looks good no matter what the outfit is? Well, that's the Contax T2. Titanium body, Carl Zeiss lens, and a price tag that's more Rolex than Ricoh. This thing is the film camera equivalent of sipping espresso in a cashmere turtleneck on a yacht. But here's a twist, it's not just hype. Beneath the influencer aura and GQ magazine cameos, the T2 is a genuinely excellent camera, annoyingly good even. It looks like a flex because, well, it is. But it's also a serious shooter. It's got aperture priority auto exposure, a slick integrated flash with full control, and a very snappy autofocus system that's, well, shockingly reliable for early 90s tech. This isn't just a point and shoot, it's the point and shoot. The lens is a 35mm f2.8 Carl Zeiss T sonar lens, and yeah, the hype around this glass is real. Razor sharp, beautiful contrast, and that signature Zeiss color pop. It renders skin tones like a Vogue cover and makes street scenes look like stills from a Wong Kar-wai film. And because it's a sonar design, you get a little dreamy fall off and character at wide apertures, but it cleans up fast once you stop down. It's incredibly easy to use, autofocus is quick, exposure is dead on, and it handles like a dream. Manual aperture control via that glorious little dial around the lens, focus over eye with a separate dial, and a luxurious viewfinder. You'll spend more time deciding if you trust the friend asking to borrow it than you will figuring out how to shoot it. It weighs less than 300 grams, is mostly titanium, and feels every bit like a precision tool built for people who own tailored outerwear. The dial clicks with authority, the door closes like a bank vault, and the shutter, a whisper. It's the kind of object that makes you believe in industrial design again. For what it's worth, I've dropped mine, I don't know, probably 5 to 10 times, and it's got a couple dings here and there, but for the most part, it's held up incredibly well. Here's where it gets spicy though. Expect to pay $800 to $1,500 depending on the condition, colorway, and whether it's been on a Kendall Jenner story recently. And yes, that's a lot for a point and shoot, but hey, so is a Leica Minilux, and the T2 is marginally less likely to self-destruct, so yeah. As for the verdict, I think it's a high A tier, borderline S tier, not because it's flawless, but because it's damn close to flawless. The T2 is a camera that does exactly what it says on the titanium shell, delivers elite image quality wrapped in luxury, and is essentially the James Bond villain of film cameras. Like I said, this camera sits right between A and S tier. I honestly think if I could, I would split it here, but once we get into the next camera, I think you'll understand. Speaking of which, the Contax T3. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Contax T3 is the apex predator of premium point and shoots. It took everything the T2 did right and just did it better. It's smaller, sharper, faster, more precise, looks good. This isn't just the sequel, it's the final form. And yeah, it's also stupidly expensive, but if you've ever shot one, I'm sure you get it. This isn't just a camera, it's Japanese design sculpted perfectly. The Japanese David of film cameras. If the T2 is the Bond villain's camera of choice, the T3 is what Bond himself would actually carry, sleek, smarter, and absolutely lethal in the right hands. The lens is the same length as the T2, a 35mm f2.8 Carl Zeiss T sonar, but redesigned and even sharper than the T2 version. This thing renders detail like a laser etcher. Corner-to-corner sharpness, low distortion, and rich Zeiss contrast that turns every frame into a desktop background. Close focus distance also improved. You can get within 0.35 meters instead of the T2's 0.7. So yeah, now your latte art and your best friend's pores can both be tack sharp. It's 230 grams, smaller, sleeker, and somehow denser feeling than the T2. Titanium body again, but more refined, like they carved it from a bar of brushed elegance. This is a camera that disappears into a jacket pocket until you pull it out and every photo nerd within a 10-meter radius starts clamoring. It's nearly silent, absurdly fast, and gives you full manual override, including manual focus in 1 centimeter increments via the dial. It's got real-time shutter feedback, so half pressing lets you lock exposure and focus before committing, and the viewfinder is bigger and brighter than the T2. Now, the only downside, if it dies, you'll cry, most likely instantly and publicly. And as for the worst part, it's between $1,500 to $2,000 plus, depending on the condition and packaging. You could buy a Fuji X100V, a weekend getaway, or 100 rolls of Portra for that money, or you could buy this. The T3 isn't just a camera, it's a grail. People buy these and don't shoot them just to say they own one, which is kind of a crime because it's actually that good. Like, really, really good. Easily one of the best lenses ever shoved into a compact body with lightning fast autofocus. Okay, so what's my verdict here? I think this is S tier, no hesitation. This is the top of the mountain compact 35mm camera. It does everything right and it knows it. It's not humble and it's not trying to be, and it doesn't need to be. Hence the price tag. Now, yes, it is obviously extremely expensive, but what you're getting for the price is a camera that is pretty much unmatched. Where in my opinion, the T2, for the price, there are a lot other cameras that are cheaper within the striking distance of it, where like I said here, the T3 is unmatched. It's not a camera that you stumble into, it's a camera you save for, dream about, and whisper to once you eventually get it. It is a status symbol, yes, but it's also a scalpel for people who actually shoot film like it matters. It's the magnum opus point and shoot, and thus is deserving of the S tier. Next out, the Contax G Series. First, the G1 was the original, a bold experiment in autofocus rangefinders. The G2 came after and basically said, okay, let's fix most of what went wrong with the first. Both use the same lenses, which we'll get to more later, and both carry the same DNA, the titanium body, killer ergonomics, and Zeiss glass sharp enough to split atoms. The G1 is beautiful, capable, but deeply weird. It does have autofocus, but it hunts. Sometimes it nails it, sometimes it gives you a portrait of the wall behind your subject. Now, it can technically shoot manual focus, but you do it with the dial near your thumb and there's no rangefinder patch. Instead, you get distance markings in the viewfinder, which makes it feel like you're programming a satellite more than focusing a camera. Still, it can produce amazingly stunning results if you're patient. As for the G2, that's a whole different story. It's got the same beautiful design, but everything's been tightened up. The autofocus is faster, more accurate, and no longer feels like you're guessing your intentions. The shutter's faster, the viewfinder zooms based on your lens, and the film advance feels like a noise from a well-oiled robot. You can shoot street, portraits, landscapes, pretty much whatever, and it keeps up, never breaking a sweat. If the G1 was a prototype electric car, the G2 is the model they sold to rich people in Santa Monica. And here's the real flex, the Contax G lenses. They aren't just good, they're legendary. The 45mm f2 is arguably the sharpest lens ever made for 35mm film, but it also has other great lenses like a 21mm, a 28mm, a 35mm, and a 90mm. Every lens in the G lineup renders that classic Zeiss look, high contrast, clinical sharpness, and colors that make film stocks sing. Both cameras are wrapped in titanium with solid heft and premium finishes. They're a bit chunkier than your average rangefinder, closer to an SLR in feel, but balanced and ergonomic in the hands. The dials are satisfying and the shutters are quiet. They feel expensive because, well, they are. The G1 with a 45mm comes in between $500 to $900 and weighs 460 grams, while the G2 body only comes in at over $1,000 and weighs 600 grams. And a full lens set, prepare your wallet as those are not cheap. As for usability, the G2 wins hands down. It's more responsive, better autofocus, and just a smoother overall experience. The G1 can feel a bit janky if you're not used to it, definitely not for fast shooting or reactive work, but that being said, either can deliver medium format tier image quality in a 35mm package. Just bring spare batteries as these things love power. The G1 is a solid B tier, maybe A tier if you're a lens snob with patience, but I think it solidly fits in B. And the G2 is straight up an S tier. This is for film shooters who want Leica level quality but aren't married to manual focus or red dots, and has legendary status for a reason. So because the discrepancy is pretty large, I'm going to split these up and yeah, well, G1 goes in B and G2 goes in S. Next up, the Yashica T Series. If the Contax T2 is the rich kid in a tailored suit, the Yashica Ts are his scrappy cousins with thrifted windbreakers and an eye for good light. They don't feel luxurious and they don't try to impress you with titanium, but guess what? They've got Carl Zeiss lenses, and that's more than enough to play in the big leagues. The whole T-line is like a slow evolution from boxy 80s design to streamlined 90s pocketability. They all shoot great, have a cult following, and were favorites of legit legends like Terry Richardson. The Yashica T2 looks like a garage door opener from 1986, a loud autofocus system, and a body that says I belong at Radio Shack, but inside that Carl Zeiss T Tessar 35mm f3.5 lens. Sharp, contrasty, and absolutely iconic. The autofocus is decent, metering is honestly pretty solid, and it's surprisingly capable with good light. It's not pocketable though, and definitely not sleek, but dependable. It's weirdly charming and surprisingly collectible now. It's a pretty cheap body with a pretty solid budget Zeiss lens, and I think it slots appropriately into B tier. Now, the Yashica T3 does everything the T2 does, but with a waist level viewfinder. Yes, the T3 introduced the T-scope, a tiny mirror viewfinder on top so you can shoot from the hip like a street photography ninja. It still has that sharp 3.5 Zeiss lens, better weather sealing, and slightly faster autofocus, but yes, it is still pretty bulky. I do think it is more stealthy and charming than the last model, but not enough to bump it up, so I think it is B tier. As for the T4, here's where things get good. The T4 finally went sleek, it has a smaller body, better ergonomics, and the same legendary Zeiss lens. It still has that waist level finder, which means you can shoot from low angles without having to lay on the ground like a weirdo. Despite the price tag of now $400 to $600, because it is being popularized by fashion photographers and Tumblr kids alike, the T4 is at the sweet spot in the series. It's great for street photos, portraits, candids, and slots perfectly into the A tier. Now, the T5 is basically a T4 with minor upgrades. It has better weatherproofing, geez, that was hard to say, improved shutter response, and slightly more robust build, and it ditched some of the bulk and weirdness of the earlier models but kept that Zeiss T lens. It's compact, super sharp, and easy to shoot one-handed, and if you can find one in good shape, this is the one you want. Unless you like telling people you shoot the cooler, older version. Now, I wanted to initially put this and even debated the T4 into S tier, but compared to the Contax T2 and T3 and taking the price point into consideration, I think it best fits into the A tier as well, so that's where it's going to go. Next up, the Leica M6. Oh baby, we're stepping into sacred ground now with this and the last camera. Leica M territory, the land of buttery shutters, hand-built rangefinders, and photographers who say character more than anyone should in a single conversation. Whether you're a street god, a documentary fiend, or just someone who appreciates a tactile shooting experience, Leica M cameras get under your skin and your wallet. Now, the M6 is the Leica that most film photographers think of when they imagine Leica. It was released in 1984, and it modernized the iconic M3 and M4 experience by finally adding a built-in light meter, but kept all of the mechanical glory intact. It has manual focus, manual exposure, no auto anything, just you, a split image rangefinder, and some of the best glass ever made. So why is it so beloved? While the metering is dead simple and LED based, it still has a 100% mechanical shutter and works without a battery, and feels like a brick of precision engineered romance with an absolutely legendary lineup of lenses. Prices are around $3,000 now, but honestly, I think it's warranted. It's one of those things where once you shoot with it, you'll understand. Plus, Leica is still releasing these and have the infrastructure and support, which is unheard of for 99.999% of film cameras. The M6, whether you like it or not, is objectively an S-tier camera. Now, do you want Leica magic without paying for the M6 built-in meter? Enter the M2, a stripped-down OG classic from the late 50s that gives you the core experience at a friendlier price. It lacks the frame lines of 135mm lenses and has a minimalistic viewfinder, but that's part of the charm. The film loading is a bit old school, but feels better built than many of the newer film cameras. Because of its simplicity and wonderful timeless design, I think the M2 belongs in B tier. The M3, released in 1954, is the camera that launched 1,000-year acquisition problems. The quick change film system and a finder so sharp it'll make you question your eyesight. But it's also very much a 50mm shooter's camera. The frame lines are set up for 50, 90, 135, and not 35. You can still use wide-angle lenses, but you'll just need external viewfinders, which isn't great. Also, the film loading is definitely quirky here as well. Being an upgrade to the M2 and introducing the M mount lenses, this camera is deserving of the A tier, but because it's set up for 55mm, it's quite limiting in my opinion, especially for my preferences. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Now, if the M3 is the OG icon and M6 is the influencer's choice, the M4 is the real shooter sweet spot. No meter, no fluff, just buttery mechanics and a viewfinder so crisp it makes you want to sell all your other gear. It refined the M3's charm with a better film advance, a proper rewind crank, and film lines for 35, 50, 90, and 135mm lenses, making it the Leica that feels the best in hand. It's not trying to impress, it just works. It's got a rock solid build, mechanical perfection, and a design that whispers, "I'll outlive you." It's not for everyone, but for those who get it, S tier. For me, I think I'm gonna throw it in A tier because I feel like S tier feels a bit rich. The M5 is the weird uncle of the M family, bulkier, boxier, and totally uncool looking, which makes it kind of amazing. It was Leica's first M with a built-in TTL meter, and instead of half-assing it, they went full analog engineer mode with a swinging meter arm that actually works beautifully. Yes, it's bigger, yes, it doesn't fit your M3 case, but it handles like a dream. It has superb ergonomics and still takes those legendary M lenses. It's a Leica for people who like being off-trend, but realistically, it's not as popular for a reason, and because of that, it's in B tier. M cameras are less about specs and to me more about the experience. They slow you down, sharpen your eye, and make even mundane shots feel intentional. They're not for everyone, but for the right shooter, they're the one. Next up, the Hasselblad XPAN. If the Yashica T4 is your film camera bestie, the XPAN is the mysterious auteur who only shoots at golden hour, listens to vinyl, and has a Criterion Collection membership. It doesn't care about Instagram crops, it's here to breathe. And it does it all with a horizontal frame so wide it makes a regular 35mm look like it's texting in portrait mode. The XPAN is not a casual camera, however. It's for deliberate shooting, wide framing, and dramatic compositions. It's the only camera on this tier list that shoots real in-camera panoramas on standard 35mm film, no stitching, no crop tricks, just one massively wide negative per frame. It's kind of like getting medium format vibes horizontally. That panoramic mode, well, it's not just a crop, it's a full width, mechanically masked out negative that gives you about double the width of a standard 35mm frame. Because of this, it shoots 21 frames per roll instead of 36, and every one of those frames looks like it should have an A24 logo in the corner. You can also switch back to standard 35mm mid-roll with the flip of a switch, no film rewind, no swapping rolls, just flip. It's pretty magical. All the XPAN lenses are Fuji built and sharp enough to shame your Leica. There's a 45mm f4, which is kind of like the kit lens, but this thing slaps. On pano mode, it's like a 24mm equivalent, insanely sharp with classic rendering. There's a 90, which is great for tighter compositions, and then a 30mm f5.6, which I think is the holy grail. The ultra wide pano equivalent to about 17mm, but it is It's costly. They are slow in aperture, but absurdly sharp and compact. Everything just clicks, both literally and metaphorically. Shooting it feels like you're driving a vintage Porsche. It's tactile, refined, and way more precise than you expect. As for the price, the XPAN 1 comes in between $2,500 to $3,500, which is the body with a lens. The XPAN 2, which adds some minor upgrades, which comes in over $4,000. And as for the lenses, they're somewhere between $800 to $5,000 plus. This is not a budget-friendly setup, obviously, by any means, but for what it does, there's nothing else like it. The downsides is it is pretty loud. Like someone just fed a fax machine Red Bull loud. Also, you're burning film at nearly double the rate. So if you're paying $20 to $30 for the roll and development, pano mode is not for the faint of the wallet. If you're a huge movie buff, a landscape junkie, or you just want your travel photos to feel like they belong on a movie poster, well, this is the holy grail, but that's where my problem also lies with it. For the price and for the cost of shooting, for how niche it is, I don't know, I just have a hard time understanding the justification of it. Now, don't get me wrong, on paper, yes, it's obviously an S-tier camera. I think it's the most legendary pano camera ever, and definitely a holy grail for pretty much anyone who gets into film more than just at a surface level. But like I said, with the context of the price and the price of the lens, I don't know. I think I'm going to put it in B tier. Now, I can already hear all the typing now, but don't worry, I have thick skin. Let the comments fly. I think A would also be appropriate, but like I said, the price, I don't know. I just think you could get a whole kit, a medium format kit that would, for most people, serve much better purpose than having the panos. But I'm an idiot, so I don't know. Next up, the Espio Mini. The Espios are like the indie band of the point and shoot world. You don't hear them much, they're not flashy, and no one's flexing them on TikTok, but if you give them a shot, you'll find yourself saying, damn, this thing actually delivers. They were made in a million variants, and while not all of them were created equal, there are a few standouts that punch way above their price bracket. Many Espios feature surprisingly capable zoom lenses, often around 38 to 105 millimeters or 38 to 115. They're not prime sharp, but they're okay, especially if you can get them for like $20 at a thrift store. Autofocus is snappy for the era, and metering is usually dead on. You actually do get a fair bit of flash control, and some models let you force the flash off, which is huge for film shooters. Otherwise, the most standout model is the Espio Mini. This is the crown jewel of the Espio line. It is a fixed 35mm f3.5 lens, compact titanium shell, and actual cult status. If the Espio Mini were made by Contax, it would cost $900. However, prices are creeping up from $250 to $400 now, but honestly, I think it's warranted because the camera is really solid. It rivals some of the other point and shoot cameras that we've talked about so far, especially for the price point, and so for that, I think it's a solid A-tier camera. It's not one of the best, and the price reflects that, but for the price, I do think it is one of the best you can get, so I think A is a solid spot for it. Oh, also before we move on, let's talk about the Espio 120, 140, 170, etc. These are all zoomy boys. They're not super fast glass. In fact, they have f7.8 at the longest end, which is definitely not thrilling. But they are practical, versatile, and usually super cheap. Like I said, if you can find these at a thrift store for like $20, then honestly it's not bad, especially for casual shooting, travel, or like taking photos at a bar or whatever. But then at that point, why do you need the zoom lens? But for $20 again, what am I saying? I think these are B, debatably C tier. These are similar to the Olympus zooms. Fine if you get them for cheap or free, or if you're trying to shoot something like super informally or whatever. In that case, I think it'd be B, but I think for the vast majority of us who are trying to shoot some more semi-serious stuff, even with a point and shoot, I think it's going to be C tier because for, albeit a couple $100 more, yes, but for a couple $100 more, you can get a considerably nicer camera with a prime lens, and yeah, they're much better. Next up, the Minolta TC-1. The Minolta TC-1, the camera equivalent of sneaking a Ferrari into your pocket. This little titan is a compact 35mm point and shoot that somehow packs Leica level optics and precision engineering into a body small enough to forget you're carrying it. It's beloved by street shooters and film fanatics who want the ultimate in image quality without lugging a bulky SLR around. The TC-1 has legendary status among compact film cameras, and it's known for its stellar Carl Zeiss Tessar 28mm f3.5 lens, razor sharp and contrasty with minimal distortion, and for packing a surprising amount of manual control into a tiny frame. It's a favorite of series photographers who want discretion and excellence, and it holds its value like crazy. It has a fixed Carl Zeiss Tessar 28mm f3.5 lens. It's sharp, contrasty, and clean, one of the best fixed lenses ever put on a compact film camera.
It also weighs only around 210 grams, which is super pocketable without any questions. It feels solid and luxurious in your hand with a nice weight that screams quality. However, this comes with a price. It is obviously a premium compact, so expect to pay $1,200 to $2,000 plus, depending on the condition and the included accessories. After all, it is a classic collector's item, so prices have held steady or increased over time. After all, the Minolta TC-1 is an S-tier compact camera, a rare beast that blends Leica-like image quality with pocket-sized convenience. If you want the best 28mm fixed lens compact film camera money can buy, this is it. Just be ready to invest a little more and cherish it like the gem it is. To me, this wider lens beats out the Contax T2's 38mm lens, thus ranking it into the S tier. Alright, next up is Pentax 17. The Pentax 17 is interesting because, well, I'm sure as most of you know, it's brand new. And it shoots half-frame vertical photos, meaning you get 72 shots from a 36 exposure roll, and it's portrait-oriented right from the get-go. It's compact, quirky, and manual in all the best ways, though. Pentax basically said, what if we made a film camera in 2024 that felt fun and not super fussy? And they actually delivered. This thing isn't trying to be a high-end precision tool, it's trying to be fun as hell, and that's what it is. It's zone focus with preset icons, which takes getting used to, but once you're used to it, it's pretty damn quick. The shutter speeds are from 1/350th of a second to bulb. It's compact, but feels solid. It's definitely like a real camera, not a toy, like many people were hypothesizing. The film advance is manual, which is crisp and definitely satisfying, and it takes AA batteries, which, bless them. It's like a mashup of an old Rollei 35, an Olympus pen, and a dash of a new Fujifilm X100, obviously in film form. Brand new, these retail for $499 US, which some may think that's steep for a zone-focused compact, but hey, it's a new film camera with actual thought behind it, and it's not just plastic junk, so yeah. Otherwise, what's the verdict? The Pentax 17 isn't trying to beat a Leica M6 or replace your T2, and it's not necessarily all about perfection. It's about joy, and that I just shot 72 frames and had a blast doing it, despite you definitely forgetting what's on each frame by frame 12. At least that's how I was. Honestly, I think this falls into A tier. It's super fun, it's super unique, feels quite substantial, and the fact that it's new with infrastructure to boot feels fair to throw it in with some of these other legendary cameras. I'm hopeful that we'll see some more cameras from Ricoh, but from what we've heard in the past, I'm not holding my breath. But let's hope this isn't the last of Pentax. Next is the Rollei 35 and the AF versions. Buckle up for some tiny German weirdness. It's Rollei 35 time. And we're going to throw the new kid on the block, the Rollei 35 AF, in here too. One's a pocketable mechanical marvel from the 60s, and the other is a freshly minted autofocus compact in a retro trench coat. The Rollei 35, with its collapsible lens, top-mounted controls, and famously confusing ergonomics, is quite quirky, but also deadly capable. It's like if a Leica and a Rubik's Cube had a baby. It's super compact, no joke, this thing fits into your jacket pocket. Lens collapse, it's surprisingly small. It's all mechanical, the original models, the 35, the 35T, 35S, don't need batteries to shoot, just for the metering. It also has really sharp Tessar 45mm f3.5 and Sonar 40mm f2.8 lenses that are genuinely excellent. It is zone focused, so you definitely estimate the distance and then pray, so that takes a little getting used to. I would equate to shooting it like driving stick. It's not easy, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty addictive. As for the price, the original 35 and 35T go for $250 to $450, while the 35S goes for $350 to $700-ish. The rule of thumb is the Singapore models are cheaper, while the German models are a bit collector bait. To me, I think these are solid A tier for people who like a little bit of pain with their pleasure, and it's a learning curve and takes a little bit of getting used to, but I think once you're into it, there's a reason why this camera is some of people's favorites of all time. After all, it's a cult classic for a reason. Otherwise, the 35 AF. Alright, where do we begin? Rollei's 2024 resurrection attempt by Mint comes with the Rollei 35 AF, a sleek, black, retro-styled compact that looks a lot like the original, but ditches the mechanics for autofocus and auto exposure. It's not a reissue, it's a reinterpretation. It is a 38mm f2.8 lens, and premium retro looks, which I will say does look great. As for the price, these are $550 to $650, which are not cheap considering it's fighting used premium compacts for your wallet space, but ultimately this is for people who want the Rollei 35 aesthetic but don't want a zone focus. Honestly, it's a bit for casual shooters who still want to look like they know stuff, but I did not say that. To me, it's a decently high B tier camera. It could rise to A tier if long-term testing proves it holds up, and if the infrastructure for it from Mint stays around. It's promising, but not legendary yet. When I used it a couple months ago, I really didn't fall in love with it, and honestly preferred the workflow of the old camera and the Pentax 17. However, a new camera in this day and age deserves some kudos, so I think it fits into B tier. Next, the Kodak H35. The Kodak H35 is not trying to be a premium camera. It's not trying to be clever. It's trying to be adorable, easy, and kind of dumb in a fun way. And honestly, it nails it. Again, it's half frame format, which means 72 shots per roll. Fixed everything lens, 22mm f 9.5. Single shutter at 1/100th of a second. Fixed focus, fixed aperture, and built-in flash for that sweet party photo from 2007 Energy. It's ridiculously lightweight, like featherweight toy status, because it kind of is. This is a camera for people who don't want to think, they just want to vibe. No focusing, no metering, no settings, just point, shoot, and maybe pray. Brand new, these are $40 to $60 US. And as far as the image quality goes, let's be honest, it's fine. This is lo-fi aesthetic heaven, and you're definitely leaning into that, so yeah. To me, this is a solid B tier for what it is, a vibe camera, not a performance camera. It could edge on A tier if you lean hard into its chaotic energy, or firm C tier if you're a control freak or expect sharpness. But for what it is, getting 72 photos for basically a disposable camera for $40, I don't know. I think it's B tier. And last up, disposable film cameras. Here's the thing. Disposable cameras are terrible, but also kind of perfect. They are the McDonald's cheeseburger of photography. Not gourmet, not healthy, but weirdly satisfying in the right moment. Kodak, Fujifilm, Ilford, even Willem Verbeek, everyone's got a version. Some are loaded with color film, some with black and white, and some even come waterproof. You don't reload, you don't change settings, and when it's done, you hand it to the lab and move on with your life. The simplicity of these cameras is why they work. They have fixed focus, fixed aperture, and fixed everything. All you gotta do is push the button, and for a lot of people getting into this, that's exactly what they're looking for. It does have a built-in flash and preloaded film, which is usually 800 or 400 ISO. The best part of these is there's no fear of loss. You can take it to the beach, a music fest, or a bachelor party without crying if it gets beer soaked. As for the image quality, let's be honest, it's rough. It does have a plastic lens after all, so it's soft, grainy, and often under or overexposed. The colors can also be flat or super wild depending on the lighting or the film. But that lo-fi, chaotic aesthetic, it is unironically cool, especially when paired with candid moments of friends and family. Now, these are only $12 to $20 per camera, but that does not include development, and not to mention that once you use these are just thrown into a landfill and become plastic junk, and they usually only come with 27 exposures. Now, in my opinion, why would you not just get the Kodak H35 or something similar for a little bit more money, but quite a big boost in lens quality, control, and overall reusability? Honestly, I think these belong in C tier. I can see some justification for B tier for the fun, simplicity, and nostalgia. It is the most accessible film camera on earth after all, but like I said before, with just a little bit more thought process and money, you can get a lot more of a camera.
And there you have it, my totally unbiased, 100% factual ranking of 35mm film cameras. Just kidding, obviously every camera here is capable of producing great photos, as you saw from the sample photos. It really comes down to your budget, your style, and ultimately the lens choice is probably the biggest factor when it comes down to it at the end of the day. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, as it helps me out more than you guys know. Now that I spent almost an hour putting my heart and self-respect on the line, it's your guys' time to do your part down in the comments, and comment down below which cameras you think I got right, which cameras you think I got wrong, and which cameras you think shouldn't have been omitted from the list. I think you guys always have some really insightful comments and always bring some different stuff to the table that I don't think about when filming the videos, so definitely do that. Otherwise, I think it's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Like I said before, definitely check out the other tier lists. Previously, I did a couple years ago that were not so good, so definitely don't check those out. For sure, don't check those out. Just kidding. But there's two other more recent ones that I think are honestly pretty solid for 2025, so yeah, definitely check those out. With that being said, I have a black and white film stock one coming up here soon with my buddy Johnny. And yeah, otherwise, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, stay safe, stay shooting. Adios, fellas.